As the wind whispered empty songs, of which I had forgotten the meaning, I see you as you see me. My eyes seem so empty when you wear them. Your version is missing its depth. Yet the longer I stare, the deeper I sink. Meaning just lost its meaning. Reflections of Littjara. This is one of the cards that actually makes you think. If you thought that the Shapeshifters of Kaldheim missed lore, then your beliefs will be altered today. Let us jump into the design of this beautiful lake. Reflections of Littjara is an amazing enchantment for 5 mana. It lets you choose a creature type, and then whenever you cast a spell of the chosen type, you get to copy it. So every shapeshifter already works with this card. Today we start with the art from Aaron Miller. Aaron Miller's art is emotional. The concept seems simple and the art forces you to contemplate. His art often fits White's vibe, because friendly emotions are never hard to understand. But what if White is about being alone, because you are always there for others? Then it becomes a little sad. White's art is often lonely, because even if we are with a lot of people, we can still feel lonely if we tower over the others. So what happens when we make a blue card with the same deep vibe? We get confusion. The Shapeshifters of Kaldheim are born from this lake. They emerge with a mask and prefer not to show their real faces. This art shows us rather empty living beings, and we have to wonder what these people feel. Also, they have frogs on their head, which is very cute. The flavor text of Reflections says, "The masks float downstream toward the mirror lake, where faces arise to wear them." So the shapeshifters return to the waters of Littjara and their masks float toward the river lake, where they are brought back to life and get a new mask. The mask then teaches them in some way how they should live their lives. Littjara is one of the realms of Kaldheim. It was created by the old gods, who never finished it. So everything in this realm is distorted. Trees bend, rivers flow upstream, and lakes are upside down. Upside down, as in that the water is like a mountain without a container. The shapeshifters are all born in the great mirror lake of Littjara, and when they die, they return there. Their masks floating over the lake, waiting for new life to take up that mask. My theory is that these masks are in a way sentient. Perhaps the masks have a goal of their own, and every iteration of shapeshifters that takes that mask is guided towards the overarching goal of that mask. Other than that random theory, the shapeshifters must be pretty confused. They are born without parents and no one teaches them. They soon learn that it is easy to leave this realm if you are still a little sane, and the shapeshifters leave for other realms. There, they imitate the life there. Probably because being a spider makes more sense than what they were before. Still, they make a lot of trouble. In their confusion, the shapeshifters try out everything that evokes a reaction. They might destroy your boat just because you had such a heavy reaction before. They might burn your house down just to learn whether you will have the same reaction as last year. It is logical to say that most people in Kaldheim don't like the shapeshifters. But who knows whether the person in front of you is a shapeshifter or your neighbor. Littjara is apparently based on the Kaldheimer. The only source for this is the MTG wiki, so this is probably random. But this world is well found. In Kaldheim, the god of the sea, Njörður, was created by wise powers, and he was given as a pledge to the gods. At the fall of the world, he shall once more return to the wise Vanir. Apparently, the shapeshifters' deaths would spell the end of the world. The more interesting analogy is that the believers of the old gods believed that Kaldheim was the actual realm of the gods. Perhaps the people of Kaldheim now see the realm of Littjara as an imposter world. Perhaps that could explain the hate towards shapeshifters. People just don't want their beliefs to waver. The most interesting part of this analogy is that perhaps the shapeshifters only return to the mirror lake when their reflections have become the real world. Perhaps then, when the old gods return, the people in the gods' hall will become the new shapeshifters. Perhaps the masks will still be the same. But now the old people of Kaldheim will wear them and be confused. Perhaps this has been going on forever. Oh no. Now lastly, you might have noticed that Kaldheim ends with Heim, just like Kaldheim. Heim is used to signal that a place is rather wild and in tune with nature, rather than with humanity. In that case, the world would have been called Guard at the end. It is not much a place outside of reality, but more that it should be left untouched. Most stories use shapeshifters as tools. They are convenient characters, where they can do anything you want. They can fulfill any role. The same is true for the shapeshifters of Kaldheim. Kaldheim is not a tribe-heavy set. Still, there are the angels and the berserkers that lack a lot of support. The shapeshifters make sure that there always is some. Shapeshifters in earthly mythology have another role, that of showing conflict, namely the conflict between humans and nature. The human is struggling with this transformation. Shapeshifters from Littjara undergo the same struggle, albeit in a different form, as they are unsure of what they are. This often makes shapeshifters evil, as they are not necessarily good. They are more chaotic, so we often just see them as hindrances to our plans. Not at all, and sometimes they help. Yet even though shapeshifters are just mirrors, we see the enemy in their randomness. Reflections of Littjara lets you place the lake on the battlefield, but it's not an artifact, it's an enchantment. This is a little bit obvious, but it means that this lake is magical, which we could see from the fact that the lake produces or recycles shapeshifters. Still a fun and little piece of information to point out. Now let us think about reflections in the tribal deck. Let's envision a merfolk deck, where this would be more expensive than most creatures. Still, it would help you double up on all spells. You could play 2 Stonybrook Bannerets, which is amazing, but you could also play 2 Marrow Regery. Just play this once and all your merfolk will count for double. Is this overpowered? Definitely not, but it's what the art implies. Then you play it with dragons, with Terror of the Peaks, or with the Eldrazi for Eldrazi conscription. Now you are in a ramping deck, where reflections is half the cost of one creature and you double huge creatures. Now it becomes really strong. But the strength of this card is like the strength of the shapeshifter. It's not its individual power, but what it represents. This card can be played in almost all tribal decks with blue. Shapeshifters in Magic are beings that have all creature types and that can often transform themselves between those creatures in the story. They often spell trouble. On Kaldheim, the shapeshifters are only mischievous, as they are kids that try to learn by testing things out. On other planes, they sometimes try to kill everything that they imitate in order to take their places. As this is a little aggressive, let us return to the metal plane of Kaldheim. There are 2 types of shapeshifters here. We have Gladewalkers and Covewalkers. Gladewalkers are clean aligned, and Covewalkers are probably the ones we see emerging from the Mirror Lake. I assume that the Gladewalkers have other ways of recycling their shapeshifters. The most important Covewalker is Orvar the Allform. This creature can create extensions of himself apart from his body that can also transform in different beings. Orvar is one of the oldest shapeshifters, meaning that his purpose must be a big one. Perhaps Orvar is the shapeshifter that will guide the shapeshifters into their next lives. Perhaps Orvar is the mirror lake, or perhaps he is aware of the reflection world. In fact, his mechanics reflect that he might be the mirror lake. Whenever something tries to discard one of your creatures, Orvar takes their form and creates a token copy of that creature. So it's almost canon. Then there is Morita of the Frost, who is a Gladewalker. Though she hid in the lands of the blue-aligned Cove Walkers to learn all of their secrets. This is interesting because it might mean she knows as much as Orvar, though Morita chooses not to create any copies. She just keeps changing herself into better versions of original creatures. This only further solidifies that Orvar is the Mirror Lake. It might also just mean that the Gladewalkers prefer to tend to the more existing creatures and value life more, while the Cove Walkers strive to overtake the original creatures, also valid. So when the Valkyries descend and the end of the world is there, Kaldheim might turn upside down. The shapeshifters will be the originals, and the originals will become the new shapeshifters. Gladewalkers care for all life and learn by becoming part of existing life, while Orvar and his offspring try to overtake all life. Still, all the while, no one notices these shapeshifters between their midst. Now, I will leave you with this fun question. What would your shapeshifter reflection look like if it was a reflection of you? Thank you for watching.